logical. I also think he's not your usual Christian, in that things like you do your Sabbath on a Saturday, you think for yourself. So, am I incorrect? Did you say you do the Sabbath on a Saturday? I thought that's what was our first conversation when we first met. Go on, Tyre, you introduce yourself then. Have I said something wrong?
Um, Probably, but yeah, I'm not a Latter Day Saints, but they're the ones that did the Sabbath on a Saturday. I know the Sabbath, but the question you asked me when we first met was, what day is the Sabbath? I was like Saturday, and yes, I know the Sabbath is on Saturday, but I'm a
Ah.
Sunday Christian.
Oh, okay. There we go. Anyway. All right. And myself, the way I like to introduce myself is I'm a Muslim. And I like to, I have love for all and hatred for none. That's the motto that I was brought up with, um, as part of a international group of Muslims who want to change the world through love and peace and intellectual conversation. Um, yeah, and I do happiness classes in places like Speaker's Corner, where I make Islamic ideas accessible, even if you're not Muslim, to help improve your life and the world in all sorts of ways. So that's the quick intros. So, what are we talking about today? Title is Christians Are Illogical. Here's why. Uh, does Tayo help me come up with that? Okay, yes. And so why are we talking about this at all? Is it just to be difficult and rude? No. Um, so let me start off with everything I talk about is to make the world a better place. So you might wait, hang on, how is that anything to do with making the world a better place? Firstly, it is religious people who are going to fix the world. And we can see that there's all sorts of statistics coming out that if you, for example, want to save the world from population implosion, it's religious people who are going to do that. And you can see that. You can see Muslims are doing that all over the world. You can see Orthodox Christians and Orthodox Jews who have the most kids. And they're the clearest against clearest on moral values. They stand against things like harming children through what is becoming known as the rainbow ideology, LGBT, and so many other things like that. So that's why this is important. But you might say, hang on a minute, what's that got to do? Why are we taking down Christianity here? There's a big problem, which is one, I would, and Ty can correct me if he wants to, but Christianity is rapidly dying. And it particularly dies quicker, because I've been going through the statistics in big cities when old ideas meet opposing ideas or alternative ideas, whereas Islam is having the opposite experience. So it's not necessarily religious ideas are weak, it's just, I think, religious Christian ideas not standing up to logical arguments. And so, if we want religion to stand up, it's got to stand up to logical arguments. So, I suppose that's, yeah. Okay, so I've done the intro, done that. But I want Tayo to say something, anytime I say, and then, of course, Claire. So, what are your thoughts, Tayo, so far on what I said? And then, Claire, please.
Yeah. Thanks for the invitation, Khalid. I the title came about because the I was invited to a stream titled Christ, "Why Don't Christians Accept That They're Wrong," which I thought was hilarious, and uh, I think I then suggested the title of "Christians Are Stupid and Illogical." Here's why. To which Khalid kindly removed the stupid part but kept the illogical part. But I said to him, I don't expect this to be a productive conversation, and the reason I said that is because it starts off with the assuming what it's trying to prove, which is that Christians are illogical. And I know you've got some things you're going to bring up about proof of sort of illogical doctrines, theology, and I'm happy to get into all of that. The reason I'm here is because, frankly, I like both of these two people. I will consider them acquaintances slash friends, and and also I any opportunity to sort of represent and testify the faith that I profess is always welcomed.
Claire, what do you want to add?
I'm just going to quote the words of Tertullian, who was a Christian theologian, and he said, "We believe it because it is absurd," and he must have been referring to the Trinity.
Right.
And
Okay.
and so I think, if questioned, people will find all kinds of holes in the Trinity. But when Christianity was operating properly, heretics were burnt at the stake. So Christians were prevented from asking these questions. And after they were allowed to ask questions, they didn't really care about it anymore.
Right. And I also want to add to the intro that it's very easy to be a viewer, but I rate anybody who comes on these live streams and is recorded forever saying what they think, because that's a rare thing. So thank you, both
I
of you.
agree.
Yeah. Okay. And that's how we make the world a better place, by standing up for what we believe in. Okay. So I want everybody to have a quick idea of what is going to go on. I like to be somewhat organized. So I'm going to try to share my screen so we got an idea of where we're going with this. Where is it? Window, this thing, that. Okay. So we've done sort of an intro, why this is important, intro to the guest. I do want to, in a second, talk about because it's going to be pushing back on Christianity. I do want to give Prophet Muhammad's, peace be upon him, charter for the Christians, how he respected Christians. So it's very important to say that this is not like trying to hate on Christians, but the truth is also important. And then I'm going to talk about why Christians believe in Christianity. As far as I understand, there are some good reasons, and I would say some not so good reasons.
Forward to that part.
Yeah. How? Sorry, what did you say? Sorry, you.
I'm looking forward to you giving your reason for why you think Christians are Christians. That would be fascinating.
Yes, yeah, exactly. That's why it's kind of like thinking out loud, and it's okay. Then trying to break down how they are illogical. And although that's quite an old topic, I want to kind of whiz through that if we can. We will see how it goes. But the real thing I'm interested in personally is how they bypass the logic through sort of interesting ways of looking at truth, I suppose. Yeah, so that's the rough thing. Let me quickly do this little speech and then we'll just jump in, which is not a speech, more like a document, a promise from Prophet Muhammad to all Christians. And one of the reasons I'm mentioning it is because in a live stream with Michael Jones, and then recently with yourself, Tayo, found a lot of people aren't aware of this, and as we are not aware of each other's religions in many ways that we should be, and it's useful to know this. And sorry, what happened was in that live stream there were all sorts of comments, and one of the comments, he asked for somebody in the comments understood the value of this dialogue, and then I passed on this document to him and he appreciated it. So but he was not aware of it before, so I thought it's really quickly worth mentioning, and I'm going to try to read it through really quickly. This is a letter which was issued by Muhammad ibn Abdullah, the messenger, the prophet, the faithful, who is sent to all people as a trust to on the part of God to all his creatures, that they may have no plea against God hereafter. Verily, God is omnipotent, the wise. This letter is directed to the embracers of Islam, a covenant given to the followers of Jesus the Nazarene in the east and the west, the far and the near, the Arabs and the foreigners, the known and the unknown. This letter contains the oath given unto them. So the oath, the promise that Muslims are to make towards Christians. And he who disobeys that which is therein will be considered a disbeliever, transgressor to that whereunto he is commanded. He will be regarded as one who is corrupted the oath of God, disbelieved his testament, rejected his authority. I'm going to try to skip because I know this is going to be long. I shall exempt them from. So this is talking about Christians, I think. Yep, of course it is. I shouldn't have skipped actually. Let me just. Okay. Whenever a Christian monks, devotees, and pilgrims gather together, whether on a mountain or a valley or a den or a frequented place or plain or church or houses of worship, verily we are at the back of them and shall protect them and their properties and their morals by myself, my friends, my assistants, for they are of my subjects and my protection. I shall exempt them from that which may disturb them, of the burdens which are paid by others as an oath of allegiance. They must not give anything of their income, but that which pleases them. They must not be offended or disturbed or coerced or compelled. Their judges should not be changed or prevented from accomplishing their offices, nor the monks disturbed in exercising their religious order, or the people of seclusion be stopped from dwelling in their cells. No one is allowed to plunder Christians or destroy or spoil any of their churches or houses of worship, or take any of the things contained within those houses, or bring it into the houses of Islam. And he who takes away anything therefrom will be one who has corrupted the oath of God and in truth disobeyed his messenger. Jizya, which is a tax that non-Muslims have to pay, and by the way, in the Quran it says a tax that is willingly have to be paid, just for government services and protection. Jizya should not be put upon their judges, monks, and those whose occupation is the worship of God, nor is any other thing to be taken from them, whether it be a fine, a tax, or any unjust right. Verily, I shall keep their compact, whether they may be in the sea or in the land, in the east or the west, the north and the south, for they are under my protection, and the testament of my safety against all things which they abhor. I'm going to try to skip to middle or something. Should any Christian woman be married to a Muslim, such marriage should not take place except for after her consent, and she must not be prevented from going to her church for prayer. Their churches must be honored, and they must not be withheld from building churches or repairing convents. They must not be forced to carry arms or stones, but the Muslims must protect them and defend them against others. It is positively incumbent upon everyone of the follower of Islam not to contradict or disobey this oath until the day of resurrection and the end of the world. So I thought it's just worth mentioning that as an introduction before we get into things. Let me stop sharing screens. Cool. All right. Okay, here we go. So why Christians believe in Christianity. So first of all, I'll start by saying Christians are leaving Christianity. So the question is sort of wrong. It is wrong. It's quickly dying out. So I'll make 3 quick points. No, I'll just okay. I'll go through my list quickly. and then people comment how they want, right? Just so we can get through the content faster. So Christians are leaving quickly, and that's something to be aware of. The other one is most Christians I know are in Christians
Skip the
on.
part I wanted.
Oh, I'm not really I'm going through the. Oh, which part of what?
Why do you believe? Why you believe
Oh no, this is
Christians
I'm
are
going through the
Christian?
bullet points. So maybe I'll share it on the screen so it's easier to understand what I'm doing. So I'll keep it on the so you know what I'm doing. Okay. So if you're confused, other people will probably also be confused. So it's good if you stop me. Okay. Whoops, did I press the wrong tab? What's going on? Oh, sorry, it's just clicking or something. Okay, so I'm here. Why Christians believe in Christianity? First of all, it's worth saying that Christians are leaving Christianity. Second, Christians, and I'll keep it on the screen so it's easier to respond, isn't it? To remember. Christians are in name only, a lot of them. They don't follow the Bible. I would say it's I've been doing a lot of videos and speakers call, and very few people following what the Bible teaches. One good reason for being Christian is there are many truths in the Bible. And as a Muslim, we believe, all religions originally came from God. So there are things that are still left there. Truths that are still left there. Believing in God and Christianity is synonymous. So for many people who don't know much about Islam or the real teaching of Islam, if they just think of it as terrorism, they see, well, I was born into this religion, or Christianity is the only religion that I'm aware of that really has anything to do with God. All these other religions are some weird religions, let's say, from their perspective. And so they see believing Christianity is synonymous with believing with God, and they want to believe in God, so they follow Christianity. And then, as with lots of religions, I call it hypocrisy. We call it in Islam, we call it hypocrisy. There are many people, like, let's say, even at the time Prophet Muhammad, who are called hypocrites because they only stayed as Muslims because there were benefits. And any good religion actually has many benefits that people want to take advantage of by just staying in the group. So those are the categories that I can think of, and I say the number of benefits Christians should be aware of. I would say the number of benefits is rapidly decreasing as Christian communities decrease in size.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, those are so people should be aware of that. I think this effect of Christianity dying out is going to speed up as it becomes more obvious that the communities that they were benefiting from go. So, first of all, Tyre, would you like to respond to any of those thoughts,
Yeah.
ideas?
Firstly,
Yeah.
I think the heading should be, why don't Christians believe in Christianity? That's what you've answered, not why Christians believe in Christianity.
Okay.
Because all of the reasons you're giving are why not to believe in Christianity. It's they're leaving, they don't follow what they believe. The only one of those bullet points that even remotely correlates to the question is truth in the Bible, which is like
Yeah. Okay. I
truth in
mean,
the
they
Bible.
would.
So,
The thing is, these people
uh,
would
uh,
say they believe in Christianity. That's what I'm saying. They say
yeah,
that.
I'm sure that that's also true for in Islam. I know I've got a lot of friends that are Muslim because that's what their parents are. So
Sure.
the hypocrisy thing runs through all religions. A lot of people don't live out what they claim to believe. That's just a fact of being human. Um, Christians are leaving. Yes, there are many Christians leaving, but there are many people becoming Christians as well. It's it's easier to look at the stats and say that Christianity is dying. In the West, probably, yeah, but the West was also at peak Christendom like 200 years ago, so it's been slowly receding since then. But check Africa, check the Spanish countries, check Mexico, check Korea. Christianity's always got in it by definition. It's like we serve the God of death and resurrection. So it's always at the peak and trough
Is it
in its
growing
lifetime. If you look,
in those countries? Is that what you're saying? Because I love checking all
yeah,
statistics afterwards. Okay.
yes. That's what I'm saying. It's rapidly growing in places that it wasn't before. So
Interesting.
it's got peaks and troughs. There are there are truths in the Bible. Sure, I think there are transformative truths in the Bible. But if you speak to Christians, the reason why Christian, just to answer the question that I claimed that you didn't answer, the reason why a lot of Christians believe in Christianity is because it's life changing. They've encountered a truth that they can know they can't deny. It's miraculous to believe in the resurrection. Claire mentioned that quote of the absurdity of it. It's in the Bible, First Corinthians 2:23. It says, "We pitch Christ crucified, a stumbling block to Jews and foolishness to Gentiles." And those Jews and Gentiles are it's actually Greeks and Jews and Greeks, and the Greeks represented the logical side, and the Jews represented the spiritual side. So both camps have reason to say this is absurd. But when the ones that do believe, that's why it's by grace only, because it takes the revelation of the Holy Spirit for you to have come to a belief in Christ. So that's the
So let me
absurdity
just
part. But
understand. So because this is
just
so.
to just to
Oh,
just
go on.
before we go further, though, I do want to just dissect the question a little bit, because
Yeah.
logic is different to absurd, it's different to reasoning, it's different to things. So when you say Christians are illogical, are you claiming that what they believe does not make sense? Or are you saying there is no reason to believe what they believe? Which of those two is it?
I would say
Because
both. They sound like the same thing to me. Oh no, no
okay.
reason at all. It would be more extreme. I would say there's lots of logic that I would say it's illogical because it doesn't make sense. A lot of things like the Trinity, 3 = 1, and things like that. And there's lots of counter evidences which we'll go through, which are commonly known. I'm not going to bring up anything particularly new. So there's so much reason not to believe in Christianity. There are some reasons to believe in it, but most, a lot of
And
reasons not to. Yeah.
are you is the claim here that the things that's true is the thing that's most logical? That's the claim here.
Um, yeah, we that's how we can derive the truth. Yes, by reason.
Okay.
Yeah.
Reason and logic are different. Can I just make that distinction?
Go on. That's very interesting because this is the
So
whole topic, really, I suppose, in a way.
yeah. So logic is saying that 1 plus 1 equals 2. That's logical. Saying 1 plus 1 equals 2 and saying 1 plus 1 equals 3, those two things are illogical. It cannot either be one or the other. So you can't say 1 plus 1 equals 2 and also say 1 plus 1 equals 3. That's an illogical statement to make. Reason is the jargon that you can come up with to claim why 1 plus 1 equals 3. So Jonathan Haidt is a psychologist that speaks about the way human beings come to believe the things that they believe, and it gives this image of the elephant and the rider. So the elephant, this is how we come to this. The elephant's the emotional part of the human personality, and the rider is the analytical, logical part of it. And the elephant goes where the elephant wants, and then the rider comes up with the reason. And an experiment that shows this is they gave evidence to a bunch of professors as to why they should save for retirement. These are clearly professors in higher education, so the people that we would all say are logical. Given evidence that these are the benefits of why you should be saving for retirement. These are the things that will go wrong if you don't save for retirement. They come back a year later, none of them were saving. Then they told them, imagine uh, your loved ones, imagine someone you love, and imagine all of the benefits that comes from. Imagine the future you as somebody that you love, and you're saving to help somebody that you love, and they come back a year later and they're all saving for retirement. Now they appeal to the emotional part of them, and that's how they were able to get them to do action. The logical part gave no action. And these were evidence, these are experimental evidence that he gave to show that thinking logically is not the way people come to believe and act on their beliefs.
Wow, that was I mean, I disagree, but that was really good anyway. Sorry. So one of the things I'm going to do is not.
What,
So,
which part
so
do you disagree with? So you believe that the rider, sorry, I just want to say you disagree. Which part?
yeah.
You believe the rider is
I
the
would
one
say
that contributes?
both of them were examples of logic. So you gave different logic to convince somebody of
No, 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 no.
following an action.
That's right. That's the decision I was making. Reasoning was the second part. The second part was
No, but
I
I
gave them a reason.
define it. You define it differently, but I don't. I define reason and logic different. They're synonymous for me. That's so. That's
Same
What's
here.
the
yeah. So no, what? So just to be clear, because I don't want to bore people, what the idea is that I put ideas out, you put ideas, Claire puts ideas, and we'll talk back and forth a tiny bit, and then just move on, like just to get. So the idea is that let the viewers decide whatever they feel like, but at least have the opportunity for everybody to hear different perspectives, and then they can choose. Does that make sense, Taya? Otherwise, I feel like we could go on forever, isn't it? So, like, and just it's also my personality is like I don't really try hard to convince people. It's like here's an idea, and I think I don't know if you're the same, but it's like here's an idea. If you understand it, great, and I'll try a little bit, sort of thing. So I would say what you've done is given logic in two different ways. One more emotive, maybe that convinces people, right? Yeah, but they were both logic, both reasoning. Claire, what did you want to say?
just to clarify?
Oh, go on,
Just to
Taya, and
clarify
then
this.
Claire.
Yeah, I would say logic is the systematic study of the form of argument, whereas reason is the application of logic to understand and judge something.
Cool,
That's all.
Claire.
Sorry.
On the subject of logic, I would say I regard them as logic and reason as synonymous. And when Tay was talking about the elephant, I imagine that the elephant is the emotion, and reason is just trying to control it, being the rider. And as far as Christianity is concerned, you can attack it in just one way, and I'm surprised that not all people do it, and it is the idolatry of Christianity, because logically, if you're Christian, you have already incorporated the Torah into your Christian Bible, and the Torah says no idolatry. And the Ten Commandments says no idolatry. And if you go forward to the actual narrative of the life and death of Jesus, he was convicted of blasphemy. And Christians can't deny that they have been worshipping Jesus for nearly 2,000 years, so in a way that is regarded by Jews as idolatry. So I think that is the logic problem of Christians, which they have never been able to resolve, other than by burning heretics at the stake for daring to question the divinity of
I
Jesus.
think the reasoning given to the logical problem you proposed is what I'm sure we're gonna come to at some point, which I think we might as well get into, is the Trinity. That's the answer as to how you can worship Jesus in a way that the Jews and the Muslim would consider as blasphemous, rightly so.
Yeah, so we'll go into Trinity, and just to because it's a live stream, just so Jay Walker, thank you for your comments. What you're asking is essentially the main thing we'll be covering shortly, which is why do we need reason to believe in something? That's one of the key things we'll be talking about. So, thanks, Jay. Okay, so Trinity. Okay, so how are they illogical? I mean, okay, most people, I would say, before I respond to Jay, most people by default think it's good to be logical. That's the only way you can distinguish between fact and fiction. Otherwise, you'll just believe in anything. How do you know? If Christianity says pigs flies, or, even Islam says pigs fly, how would you choose if that's correct or not. So I think being logical is a reasonable thing to do. Being illogical, I think, is not very reasonable. But we will talk about that in details too. I think you're saying, um, Jay, and this is something we're going to talk about, is what are the limits of logic? Can you guide your spiritual life through logic? And that's an important discussion. So anyway, let's go through quickly the ideas in which I think Christians are illogical, starting with theology. Um, theology as in the core doctrines, I suppose. One is Trinity, and I understand it as one of the key problems with it is it's trying to say 3 = 1. It's fundamentally wrong. I will point out the 3 things. Okay, that's the key one that comes to mind, most obvious one. And sometimes this is another one that I've been thinking about recently: is Jesus still a man? Okay, if so, what does he need a penis for? Hopefully that's not too insulting, but it's a practical thing. It doesn't make sense for Jesus to be a man, and why did he choose to be white? So that's the Trinity. Do you want to respond to some of those ideas, Tayo, and then Claire?
I'll let Claire go first, and then I'll
Okay.
respond.
Yeah, that's a good idea because you can hear all the arguments against. Yeah. Go for it, Claire.
Right. I suppose Jesus had to be a Jew because the whole story of God is supposed to come from Jews. I mean, I know that there's some argument about whether Abraham was Jewish or not, but the Abrahamic religions is an expression that includes Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and Christianity is a religion that is completely based on, Judaism, because without Judaism, there would be no Jews. Without Jews, there would be no Jesus or Christians to worship. And also, Christians have culturally appropriated the Old Testament, or the Tanakh, as the Jews might call it. So, and my view is that Islam is a synthesis of Judaism and Christianity, with all the bad bits taken out of it, of each religion, in my view.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tayo?
Thanks, Claire. Yeah. Just going off what Claire said quickly. Yes, the narrative does dictate that Jesus be a Jew because salvation comes through the Jews, according to the Torah. Talking about the Trinity, 3 = 1. This is why I made the distinction earlier between logic and reasoning. If the Trinity was claiming that 3 beings equals 1 being, then that would be incorrect. If the claim is that 3 beings as 1 being as 3 personalities, and the distinction between being and persons is crucial in order to understand the logic of the Trinity. It's not claiming that the being of God and the persons of God are the same. Human beings, you, myself, Claire, we're all human beings, but we're very distinct persons.
Mm-hmm.
And that clarification is important. A stone is a type of being, but it's not a person in any way that we can recognize anyway. So the being of God is one. There is no claim that there are 3 beings named God. No, the being of God, that's the one. The personalities are God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. Now, how that makes sense is it requires meditation and trying to submit yourself to the mystery of the Trinity. There is a mystery there. It's not something that we can easily comprehend. But if we could easily comprehend God, is that still God?
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
moving on to
So
that point, is Jesus a man? What does God need a penis for? That's the core of the problem of the incarnation, which is another great misunderstanding. The word there that makes the question a misunderstanding is need. It wasn't a need. It chose to. And this is a conversation I've had endlessly. I think Claire witnessed me speaking to one of the Dawas.
Ali Dawa?
Ali Dar.
Dawa, yes.
Oh, we have to check out that video.
No, I think I insisted that it wasn't recorded because I wanted to
Oh,
actually have a
okay.
conversation. So I'm not sure if it was still recorded, but I did ask,
Okay.
and he
Okay.
said one of his guys not recorded, and
Okay.
it was the question of the incarnation, and it's the what we came down to was that there's a understanding in Christianity that one of the attributes of God is humility, which I don't think is emphasized in Islam, and it's the humbling of giving up the right to proclaim himself as God and entering the human flesh is a sign of God coming lower into your humanity. It's the sign of the narrative world and the objective world touching in the person of Christ. So there is a, it's not something that's easily graspable. I'm not saying that, but I am saying it is definitely logical.
Okay.
Um, why did he choose to be white? I think you've been watching too many, I don't know, films by white people because it was never.
Are Jews white?
No,
Sometimes, I mean,
yeah,
some white people don't
He
agree.
could be some color, but the generally accepted he was white. But anyway, so I don't want to interrupt. I'll follow up when you've finished. Sorry, go on. I'll go on. Yeah.
yeah. Don't that. Just please do.
Okay, so I mean, it's probably worth mentioning why this is a really important topic because the slave trade, of course, there's a lot of discussion of black people trading other black people, and I'm sure that was true. But a lot of the I think they call it the triangular trade, slave trade between England, West Africa, and the Americas. It was enabled because people thought God was white. So this is what I was taught in GCSE history, where the Christians who transported
Oh,
slaves.
what was the edXL or AQA? That's hilarious. They
I
told you
don't know.
white.
So let me finish. No, what they would say, they would thank God for the relatively few number of slaves killed. Okay, because they didn't even see black people as human, and that's only possible if you think God is white. If God was black, it would be very difficult to have that perspective. I think that's very reasonable. It's very, I
No,
don't know, I think it's
that,
very sad. And
that did not sound. That sounded like a stretch to me. Reasonable, but a stretch at best.
I mean, if you thought your God was black and you're a white guy, you would definitely not treat, black people
Putting
badly. I think it's
putting
quite reasonable. But anyway, go on. You say something, you respond to that, then Claire, then we'll move on.
yeah. On the God choosing to be white thing. Yeah, I think that just sounds ludicrous to me because I don't know any Christian that if you ask them, they're like, yeah, one of the attributes of God I don't claim is that is white. That's not that's very much lower. Like God's physical attributes are not known apart from through the person of Jesus Christ, and he was a Jew, not a white man.
So
So
what? No, so just to get Jay Walker in, he says God is neither black nor white. Do you agree with that, Tayo?
yes, yeah, I
So
think
what about Jesus? Was he neither black or white? No color at all when he was human.
he was a Palestinian Jew. That's who he was.
What? But he must have had a color, is what I'm saying. I'm not going to go
Why
into
is,
stuff
why is the color important? I would ask that.
for the historical reasons of oppression. I gave
I think
that.
ethnicity. I think is ethnicity is important for historical thing. I don't think the color is, because if we trying to determine what people's color were back 2,000 years ago is futile because people have moved around since then, and ethnicity. If people in the same ethnicity have changed colors,
Oops, sound. What happened to your sound? Can you say it
He's
again?
frozen.
Oh, he's frozen. No, he's
Oh
not
no,
I,
no,
frozen.
he's unfrozen.
Okay, yeah, yeah, just a bit of a lag. So you were saying ethnicity is
yes, I
something.
said ethnicity is important. I'll say that his ethnicity is important. I don't think his color is important.
Yeah.
I
So
think
I'm
that
just going to
order.
reiterate. Sorry, go on. I'm going to reiterate that I'm not necessarily going to stick on a point, but I think I'm not. I would say it's very odd to say somebody is not one color or the other, or given the reasoning I gave, it's not important. But what I'm trying to get across here in the whole kind of stream is that Christianity is going to lose its numbers unless they answer these very important questions. But that's my. I'll leave it to my opinion. Claire.
It was just something I wanted to pick up with when Teo said God had humility. I'm sure God, if he exists, is not humble at all. He's just there telling us what to do. So and I so that's the only thing I just wanted to say, that I don't quite agree with Teo about.
I think there's. I would. God is. I think one of God's names is that He's subtle. I have to go through that, right? So there's an element of humility in that sense that He lets other people often take
Glory.
the limelight or something. So let's say I use my brain and I get a Nobel Prize, but God gave me the Nobel Prize, but God doesn't say, "Hey, it was me, really." So, to that extent, God is subtle in his powers and doesn't show off all the time and gives other people a limelight. I would say that. What do you
I
think about that? Go on.
Yeah, just to Claire's point, Christianity affirms both. Christianity affirms the lion and the lamb. God is the most glorious and also the most humble because, yeah, the lion and lamb. There's a again, I think it's important to emphasize that if you could grasp all of everything there is to know about God, then it would cease to be God because then we would be on the same level with God.
Okay.
I
So
sort of feel
go on, Claire. Yeah.
I sort of feel that Jews would disagree and about God being humble. I mean, I suppose they might agree that God is just, well, being as Khalid was saying, being subtle and not making miracles and zapping us and telling us who's in charge, but just sort of maybe sitting back and watching the experiment,
I,
see who will do what and for what reason.
I think that's why it's foolishness to the Greeks. It's before Christianity, it was the weak were weak for a reason and the strong were strong for a reason. After Christianity, the weak were glorified to in ways that pissed off people like Nietzsche, and they saw the effect that Christianity had. That Christianity emphasized, gave glory to the weak through the person of Christ, because at the center of our religion, it's someone that was crucified, which was the most embarrassing way to die, the most humiliating way to die. But we also believe in the resurrection. That's the both. That's the glory. That's the lion and the lamb.
Okay. So I just want to, you made a comment twice about God not being fully comprehensible or comprehensible.
Graspable.
Graspable, yes. So that's so in Islam we agree that you cannot fully understand God because we are just humans. We got our pea-sized brains, unless compared to God, we're not going to fully understand. Just like an ant cannot understand a human. That's true, but God has made us rational, and would and God would expect, I would say, given the rational brain that we'd be designed for, to make a choice about what's the most rational understanding of God. So you said it's a in if I was summarizing what your understanding about Trinity was, it's essentially a mystery that can't be easily explained. I certainly didn't understand it.
Do
Your
you understand?
description,
Do you understand the fact that a being is different to a person?
no.
So
Being is different
you
to a person, no.
you don't make a distinction between the category of human being and the category of a person.
No, I can't understand the difference. No.
So we are all, you us three are human beings, but we're distinct person. But you would say we're all human beings and all distinct persons.
No, I can't understand that. But you also said a minute ago when you were describing the Trinity that it's not really understandable, and it's
It's not
the Holy
fully
Spirit that helps you.
fully it's not fully understandable. It's not fully
Oh,
grasped.
okay. Okay, thanks for clarifying
I
that.
believe I have
Yeah,
solved the mystery of the Trinity, but maybe that's a
go
separate
on.
stream.
Okay, we got to hear Claire. She's just solved it. I haven't understood it. Go for it, Claire.
They should be hilarious.
Oh, okay, so basically, there was schism at the Council of Nicaea because there was the Arians who basically believed that Jesus was an angel of God and he was slightly divine, but not of co-equal status to God. And there was the Athanasians, who were followers of Athanasius, who said Jesus is a co-equal of God and the Holy Spirit. And it turned out that the Athanasians were correct because although Arianism was easier to believe, that Jesus was a bit divine, born of a virgin, blah blah blah, because in the culture of the time, people believed in the Olympians, the idea of Zeus living on Mount Olympus, coming down occasionally to mate or rape mortal women and sire half divine offspring. So for the Greco-Romans, that's quite easy to believe that God would come down and mate with a human female and who would give birth. And but the Trinitarians were basically saying we can't have Jesus being just the Son of God, because what's going to happen when we argue with Jews on theology is Jews are just going to say that our God of Israel is didn't get hurt, didn't get crucified, he's still there, he rules as before, and Jesus ain't God. And anyway, according to your own narrative of Jesus, he's only the Son of God and he's not co-equal. And therefore the God of Israel will be more powerful than this Jesus person who isn't as powerful as God. And the Trinitarians understood that immediately, and that was why they insisted. They were the majority anyway, but Constantine, who was the one who called the Council of Nicaea, found Arianism easier to believe. And this is something E. Michael Jones actually agreed with me. It's easier to believe in Arianism. So after Constantine died, he had a deathbed conversion. His son was also an Arian, but after his son died, the Edict of Thessalonica was passed in 380, which said that the only kind of Christian allowed in the Roman Empire would be Trinitarians. So, and that's been Christianity ever since. But I think it was about winning arguments against Jews, because if Jews are going to say, "Oh, you're Jesus God," well, what is he? Our God is more powerful, and then Trinitarians can say, "No, Jesus is a co-equal of."
So they basically
His
Trinity.
Spirit.
So the Trinity is a result of just trying to have an equally powerful Christian God.
Yes, in theory, anyway.
Yeah. Okay. And Tayo, you say your last few words on that, and then we'll move on to inherited sin.
Yeah, that's an interesting theory. But I think it belittles people's faith to think that all of this is just so they can win in arguments.
Cool. I like short and sharp. Inherited sin, I would just say, so for people who don't know, it's the idea, as far as I understand, Adam sinned, possibly Eve sinned, both of them sinned, and then sin, which I think is you messed up and you have to say sorry for, somehow was inherited, gone through your genes, which is a weird, very odd idea. And so I would have inherited somebody else's mistake, like somebody else you know gets a speeding ticket, and then they have children, and I inherit the speeding ticket. I'm not sure, maybe that works in the legal system, but generally it doesn't make sense. And what I'm trying to get at here is kind of zooming out in the bigger picture. Is like, I don't. I think a lot of Christians have realized this, and that's why so many Christians are becoming atheists, is that the words "Are you kidding me?" come to mind when it comes to the Trinity, inherited sin, and all these ideas. Like, if you had to think, and this is really important to step back and say this, if you had to think of a religion that was so difficult to understand and so the opposite of logic, illogical, that would Christianity would be doing a really good job in doing that. Just not being rude is just like, oh my God, seriously,
I take
how
as a
can you inherit sin? So, and did you say you take that as a compliment?
yeah, the fact that you're saying you can't, it's again foolishness to the
Yeah,
Gentiles, stumbling
go
block
for
to.
it. Yeah, go on. You respond to that. Sorry, go on. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think your understanding of inheriting sin is, and I think it's surface level, but also this is to a bigger point of your understanding of Christianity. Christianity, I think most of your information is Protestant theology, and Christianity is so much broader and a lot more complex than what's being demonstrated so far. So, the doctrine of original sin is, I think, what you're referring to by inherited sin, and it's, excuse me, it's original sin because it's the first one. So Jesus is referred to as the second Adam because there was a rebirth. There's a rebirth. Christians experience a rebirth when you believe in Christ, and the idea is that you are no longer following from as a descendant of Adam and the mistake that Adam made. You're now following the redemption story of Christ, and the idea of inheriting sin is, I think you can. I don't think you will understand it, but I will explain it for the audience as patterns. The patterns of behavior that replicate throughout generations. There's uh, there's scientific papers that traumas inherited can be inherited. And oh, we're moving around with dancing.
Yeah, sorry, I don't like putting this thing on your face. I feel ashamed. Like, this thing, nice comments, but it was going on your face, so I thought it was disrespectful. So I'm trying
All
to,
right, I don't
yeah,
mind it.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's the idea of trauma being inherited is something that psychologists are very heavily looking into. So I don't think it's that ridiculous as you're making it to say that you inherit things from your parents or even bad trauma, and things like alcoholism can be can be inherited. Things, there are diseases that are inherited. So the idea of things being coming down from genes, I don't think it's that ridiculous as you're
What
making it.
about the sins of the fathers being visited on their children until goodness knows how many generations? That's a biblical saying, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not saying that if your father was an adulterer, you are. There isn't a doctrine in Christianity that says that there is. These are the laws, and these are the punishments for the law. And if the father breaks this law, the punishment will be given unto the son of the son. The category is sin. It puts it under one umbrella. It's the fact that once Adam sinned and sin entered the world, we all have kept sinning since Adam. It's the original sin that started it all, was the reaching out and grasping of the fruit of good and evil. That's the original sin that we're trying to escape from.
Okay. So I just want to quickly put my thought in here. There are communal or causal effects in society. If you know, you drink alcohol, you affect the whole of society, not necessarily even just your children, everybody else. You can harm anybody. It's not just one direction. And so there is some level of that. But the idea of sin is you can also, like, let's say, like you said, adultery. I should not receive the punishment for adultery if somebody else is adulterous, like say my
I
parents
said
or
that
somebody
is
else?
exactly not what that means. It's not you're receiving a punishment for this for the mistake of the father. That's not what the doctrine is.
Oh, okay. That because that's so. If there's no worry of punishment, then I'm not concerned about being relieved of that punishment through Jesus dying on the cross for me. In that case, does that make any sense?
I'm saying there is no. I'm saying there is no set punishment for individual sin. There is punishment for sin. Period. And the idea is that once sin entered the world, the pattern has kept reverberating. And we of all, it's not you're being punished for the sin of Adam. It's that you're repeating. You, myself, Claire. We're all repeating the pattern of Adam. We're all still sinners. That's the original sin. It's not inherited sin. It's original sin.
Sure. So I'm just thinking because there's a lot of questions about a lot of comments on the lines of essentially that faith is above logic. So
I
I
would,
did,
I would rephrase that. I know you're gonna respond to the comment,
yeah.
but I would say from this side of it's faith comes before logic is the claim I'm making. Not it's above it, it comes before it.
Okay, so I'm just thinking that maybe I should go about this another way. So I've got a whole list of things to demonstrate. I think I thought originally it makes sense to go through the issues that I am saying are illogical and then go to the next stage as to. So
Why?
I'll do a really quick version. I'll do a quick version and you can respond to any of it. So I would just say there's atonement, which is somebody else paying for your sin. I'm going to do the really quick version. I'll try to keep it all on as much of it on the screen as possible. And then we'll try to get to the bit that everybody really seems to be talking about. So atonement, somebody else paying for somebody else's sin. That doesn't make sense to me. Also this idea that you can't believe until you're inspired by the Holy Spirit. Essentially you can't believe until you believe, which is a circular argument. As unscientific, the universe is clearly not created in 6 literal days. I say clearly according to this, again, science as far as we know it, which is it's just an extension of logic. And I say it's 6 literal days because there was an evening and a morning in each day. And then the earth was created in the first day. That's also not scientifically correct. The sun and the moon created on the 3rd day, despite there already being sunrise and sunset. And just to compare that, we've got in the Quran, which is no scientific flaws. You've got the Big Bang. All life has been created from water, or has water. This Quran chapter 21, verse 30. I say Sunni because of the way most people number these verses. And you got 6 stages, 2 of which are the earth was created, and that's exactly the time period it's taken for. So 2 out of the 6 days in the Quran were spent creating the earth, which is exactly, according to science, the amount of time taken for earth to be created. And essentially, if you do 2/6 or 1/3 of the age of the universe, you get the age of the earth. And very interestingly, because a lot of people claimed that the Quran copied the Bible. I hope Tayo's still there. Is Tayo still there? Just there's no crash. You just turn your camera off. Is
Still
that
yes.
right?
Still
Okay,
yes.
cool. Yeah, exactly. Feel free to do that. Yeah. So the Quran doesn't copy the mistakes of the Bible. And I'll just squeeze in one more, which is left on the screen, which is we got typos. You might describe them as, King Jehoiachin was 18 and 8 when he became a king. So you've got a lot of problems that I would say you go immediately, there's something wrong, doesn't make sense to believe this. I'm not going to believe it. That would be the reasonable thing to do. If God made you logical, God should expect you to be logical and therefore not believe it, as a lot of people are. So I'm going to stop at that so that you can see all the things I talked about. Whoops, you know where it started from. Whoops, I'm going to try to get this. Oh, I can't even scroll properly. Here we go. I'm just going to get it just so atonement fits in and typos fits in. Anyway, let's go for it, Tayo. Thank you very much for being patient and listening to that. What have you got to say about that?
These are all these come from this side of from the inside of Christianity. Listening to all of this, it sounds like what the other side were told about what Christianity is, and without actually investigating Christianity, because it's very difficult for me to talk about Islam because I'm not it's more about the religion that you're practicing, and the yeah, so a lot of the unscientific, the 6 days argument, it's kind of humorous to me because okay, I'm sure there are six creationist Genesis that people that believe in the 6 day creation, so and take that literally, but trying to read the Bible as a scientific document is futile because science came much later through Christianity. By the way, science is a direct birth from Christianity. Direct. It's the universities or all monasteries. It's the influence of
That's
Christianity.
actually incorrect, but I'll correct that. Sorry, I shouldn't talk while you're talking. Go on.
No,
Right.
go on, please do.
So the first university ever created was by a Muslim lady called Fatima in Morocco, and the universities, Oxford and Cambridge, the oldest universities in England, came from a monk who learned about came from a unit. So he was taught in a university in Islamic Spain, Al Andalus. So that's where the idea of universities, how it reached Europe. Go on.
Yeah, I would actually like to get your sources. If like WhatsApp me, I click into
I
that
mean,
because
you can Google. I mean, I'm not saying anything that's particularly
I
hidden.
just
It's easy
I
to Google.
literally just googled it, and yeah, the University of Bologna is the oldest university, and it's not the one in Morocco. But it's fine. I don't want us to get bogged down
Yeah,
on. So
people can Google and find out because just find out the truth. Yeah.
Also, just the other thing I wanted to add to your spiel is there's uh this posturing of science and Christianity as being opposites that I think it's inaccurate, and the posturing of the Bible as being full of error, whereas the Quran isn't full of supposed errors, is also hilarious to me
But let's
because
just stick on to make this useful. Let's just say the error thing, for example, right? The
Mhm.
18 and the 8 thing. So let's say you're not sure about the Quran. Maybe it's got errors. Who knows, right? But let's say you defend that particular issue. So you're already saying the whole scientific thing doesn't matter. Is some sort of, I don't know. Was it like I'm trying to.
I said it was birth from Christianity. That's the claim I'm making.
Okay, so
And
that's okay. That's a different claim, but I'm saying, like, say you're defending the things I've just said. So your defense against the scientific errors, let's say,
is
is that maybe they're not exact descriptions, or they're what?
my
I don't understand your
I
response.
offered the defense for the 6 day one, saying that that's trying to read the Bible as a science textbook, which it isn't. It's a narrative. The Genesis is a temple text, and it's describing not just it's describing the cosmos and how things flow from hierarchies into each other. It's not to be read as okay, it took God 6 days. And even in the Bible, it says a day to us is like a thousand. A day to the Lord is like a thousand days to man. So there are verses that tells you like these trying to read it literally, which is a very modern concept of reading it, which is we're going to take the words and take trying to find a naturalistic explanation for them. These are holy scriptures that are meant to be read and meditated on a spiritual plane.
So if I was trying to understand it, are you saying some of these things are metaphors? So the sun, there was an evening and a morning in each day. That was a metaphor of some sort.
Yeah, Not metaphor would be too strong, but it's a mythic story, and trying to understand it literally is doing it as a is would be doing it injustice. And I find it disingenuous that the you're saying those claims are there in the Bible but not in the Quran. And yeah, because from everything that I know about from Muslims, what I've read from them, it's the same um criticism that get levied at the Bible gets levied at the Quran by non-theists. So yeah, and I don't want to play that game of your this is that. So I'm just
That's
gonna
all
make
right. We got to have the clarify that as one way or the other. So the Quran has the word yom, which is actually the original we use the word used in Hebrew as well, yom, which means phase or but can be used as a day as well. But the thing in the Quran is we don't have a sunrise and a sunset that suggests that it was a literal 24 hours day. That's all. So Claire, do you want to say something about that section? All those points that are on the screen at the moment. Oh, it's not on the screen. Sorry, let
It's
me
not
just
on the screen.
yeah,
Um,
it's on the screen.
whoops, I pressed the wrong button. Oh, there it is. Yep, there we go. Yeah.
Oh
um,
yes, I missed
Oh,
something. Sorry.
sorry. I didn't realize you'd have to do it from memory. Sorry, Tayo. Do you want to add something now you can see everything on the screen, Tayo? Those are the things I mentioned, all those things. Atonement all the way to typos.
Yes. Sorry, Claire hasn't spoken for a while. I
Go
forgot.
on, go on. Yeah, yeah. And
well,
then you can
actually,
come back to Tayo.
I went to a different into another room to get something. So I
Oh, okay.
Teo,
That's fine. That's fine.
please take
That's fine.
over.
Yeah.
Tayo, yeah.
So you're saying the mistakes. These are all examples of why the Christianity is illogical and why the church is. I'm just trying to get understanding of the theory you're proposing. Is there are reasons for why the church numbers are decreasing, and it's
Yeah.
because it's illogical, and these are some of the reasons why people are leaving the faith. I
Yeah.
would just like to say, as someone that's in the faith and that's got friends that have left the faith, and none of this are over the reason. The reason people are leaving the church mostly has to involve uh, them not understanding why the Bible doesn't affirm their gay friends and their lesbian friends. It's because the church is too traditional. It's not because of any of this reason, which I think adds evidence to the point of that the elephant decides, not the rider.
Okay, but Islam is holding firm on its traditional beliefs and not agreeing that homosexuality is good, and it's having the opposite effect. So, are you sure that's the reason
Oh no,
why people are leaving?
no, it's that the churches that are growing, even in the West, are the churches that are holding to traditional beliefs. The ones
Oh,
that the churches that are go affirming are the ones that are dying, and the fact that a lot of churches go affirming to sort of appease the culture has been proven in the church history. Currently, the CRC is going through their own thing where they're trying to
so I just
decide.
want to make sure I heard you correctly. The God affirming, i.e., the traditional ones, are the ones that are dying or
No, the one that got affirmed, like
growing.
affirming the LGBTQ movement. The ones that
Oh,
affirm that movement are the ones that die. The ones that stage tradition are the ones that are growing.
okay, good to hear. It's
That's
good.
been known in churches for ages. Yeah.
Okay. Can you just, because I don't know too much about these things, tell me, do you know a group or kind of church in the UK, so I can do my stats research, that
Mhm.
is growing and that's, let's say, traditional?
In the UK, I don't know of any in the UK. The UK is not the only.
Okay, what about anywhere?
Oh,
America?
yeah, America, yeah, the CRC. This is
CRC.
what happens is you get a big denomination. The fight becomes: do we go affirming or do we go otherwise? Some go affirm. The church splits over this issue. The splits in the split, the church that stays traditional grows. The one that goes affirming dies. That's what usually happens. Now, the one that goes traditional does not grow to the original size, but it grows further relative to the one that goes affirming.
I'm just laughing that Claire is in the chat as well as on the video. But is that your I don't want to call him a troll,
I'm
but
gonna put
is
that in
he one of your
the
regulars?
chat.
Yeah, yeah. Is that
Yes,
is Jay one of your regulars? Oh, we've got John
yes,
Vance.
he is.
Good to have you here, John. I want to do a stream with you again. It's just hard to stream with you sometimes because I have to wake up 2 o'clock in the morning. But it'd be good to know another one. We have free will. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, shall we move on to the next? I'm sort of in a rush to get to the bit that everybody cares about. I don't want to push, but I don't want to take the right of, let's say, Claire or anybody to say their bit on a particular section. Did you say you're okay with that, Claire? You're fine with whatever we've said so far.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so yeah, I'm not going to go into the details about the Quran. There's some people say things about the Quran, but I think that's a whole. I'll leave that to speed things up. Also, there's moral issues. For example, you can kill a slave as long as it takes 1 or 2 days. That's Exodus chapter, verses. Sorry, Exodus 21, 20 to 21. You can kill a slave as long as it takes longer than 2 days. So maybe you beat them really badly and they bleed slowly, for example. I think that would be. I think we're about to get to the bit that's going to be really interesting to everybody. So I would just. That's the end of my issues with the logic of Christianity. So let's get Tayo and Claire to say something about that, and I think we're going to get to the bit that everybody really wants to know about, I suppose. Go on, Tayo. So my argument there is that you got moral issues that very few people can agree with in the Bible. It's a logical problem, I suppose, of sorts. If you're thinking God is kind and just and all that kind of stuff. So, any response, Tayo?
Um, I'm trying to find the most charitable way to say this, but I think all of this just read like a list of this is why Khalid isn't Christians, and because Khalid is logical, this all must be illogical reasons.
Yeah. Okay. I agree with that. I would say logical, and there's a logical reasons for me not to accept Christianity, but not just me though. I'd say a lot of people. There must be a reason why so many people are leaving from like normal statistics of
Just
countries around the world. Yeah.
really quickly, your image of Christianity is of this, that, and Claire as well, which is actually the secular Quran, is of this once prominent religion that is now just whittling away and will soon be gone and forgotten. Correct?
Yeah, especially the Western version description that I mostly experience. Yeah. And Claire, I think you said yes, or did I
Yeah,
miss?
I agreed.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah. Oh, is that? I thought
Is
you were
that
going
it?
to say Teo. You're going to say you can say something about
Oh
how
no.
we're incorrect.
I mean, I disagree, obviously, which is why I'm a Christian, and I
Yeah.
would only say that I guess it's always easier to know what's going on the ground than from the outside looking in. It's yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So this is the bit that's going to be, I think, hopefully most interesting to everybody. So, how I see, and from even what I'm hearing in the chat, I'm just having a quick look at what's happening in the chat. Yeah, but no, but yeah, but no, but maybe. I'm not sure what that means. I think that's not anyway. Oh dear, the explosion of anti-Semitism in the chat. I can't see anything. Correct.
They're my trolls.
Oh, you're trolls. Okay, it doesn't have to make sense then.
No, no.
Correct the mistakes in the Bible. The people will return and the doors will reopen. That's an interesting idea. That's an interesting idea. So, um, slavery is looking better than our current system. Sure. I mean, I wouldn't recommend killing people yet, but yeah, we want to reduce.
Experienced slavery.
Sorry.
Spoken like a privileged person that's not experienced slavery.
We all experience slavery to some extent. Yeah.
I would agree. To some extent.
90 years mortgage in Canada now. 90-year mortgages. Wow, that's nice. Okay. So
Talk to people.
different
Yeah.
economic slavery of anyway. So okay. So how do Christians bypass logic? And it's not just an accusation, but something I want Christians to consider, because normally we try to be as logical as possible. I'm not sure if the mechanisms I'm going to talk about would be accepted in life outside religion, let's say. And they might say yes, exactly, because religion is different. But anyway, so here's a main claim that I've been hearing a lot from the Christians in the chat, which is logic. Essentially, this is what they're saying: logic has its limits, but does not mean. Okay, sorry, this is what I'm saying. So the Christians are saying logic has its limits, and I'm saying, sure, we can't possibly understand everything, but that doesn't mean we reject logic. So, you know, if we can't understand 3 = 1, or, somebody else paying for the sins of somebody else, um, uh, typos and all sorts of other issues
But
that
you
don't
can't
seem to add
understand it.
up. Sorry?
You're saying you can't understand it. You say, and no one can understand it.
I would say I talk to a lot of people, including Christians, who can't explain it, and it's not like I'm new to this conversation. Yeah, so I would say a lot of people cannot understand it, and I would say, Tyre, you can't understand it, because I would go by something Einstein said. He said, if you cannot explain it to a 6-year-old, can't remember, in a few minutes or something, then you don't understand it yourself. I think that's quite a reasonable way, especially a way of looking at things, especially since Einstein is in the habit of talking about very complicated ideas. And he's not the only Nobel Prize winner to say that. There's Feinstein, can't remember his name, Feynman. He said something similar as well. Mathematician, Nobel Prize winning mathematician, and also, you know, God made us logical, as like I said before, and if we can't understand it, then we can't be expected to follow it. Is, I think, very reasonable, simple kind of logic. So yeah, so just because logic doesn't explain everything doesn't mean we reject logic. We have to follow logic as far as we can, because that's the only reasonable way we can distinguish between fact and fiction. If one religion suddenly says, let's say Christianity suddenly says pigs fly, how would you know that's true or false if you cannot decide through logic? What other mechanism is there? Feelings are getting us in big trouble at the moment. People are feeling like they're women when they're men, so that's a dangerous way to go about it.
How about faith?
And yeah, and then just to finish off, the Quran the Quran has a very different attitude, which is it tries to support everything, even things like the afterlife, through logical arguments, because the God of the Quran, Allah, God, whatever, realizes we are logical beings, and therefore God needs to give logical arguments for us to be able to follow it and understand it. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that. I suppose that covers all of you can't understand until you. Okay, yeah, I think forget all this other stuff. Yeah, Tayo, what do you think?
I think saying that logic is not the primal way of believing does not the same as saying logic is not needed. The Bible explicitly tells Christians that they should be ready to give reasoning for why they believe what they believe. And the Bible makes sense to Christians. So is that I'm asking, is your claim that Christians are lying, that it makes sense to them, or are you saying that they're stupid and they don't understand what logic and what the difference between logic and illogic, I guess? What's the
My argument would mean, okay, so I think lying to ourselves is a very common thing, right? We do all sorts of things that don't make sense, and then if we're honest with ourselves, we go, "Oh, I knew that was wrong." So yes, I would say, I'll wait for him, I suppose.
I'm still here.
Oh, okay, you can hear. You could. So I would say yes, Christians are lying to themselves. I would say Muslims lie to themselves to different. Everybody lies to themselves to some degree about things they don't want to do or agree with, and there are also, so like I said, different pulls to lie to ourselves, like, we might have a bunch of friends who are Christian or Muslim or whatever it is, and therefore we follow it despite the evidence. That's what I'm saying.
So yeah, we're lying to ourselves, not that we're stupid. And if we
No,
are,
I
if
think
we
I
are,
think we're mostly all stupid. I'm sure you'd agree. In us, yeah.
yeah,
Sorry, go on.
um, I would I would speak about Christians are more likely to, they've got their, one of our tenets is faith, and I'm just, what role does faith play in Islam if everything has to be logical before you believe it?
Faith is based on reason in Islam. So we don't. I think this is. I'm not sure if this is a new idea that faith has to be separate from logic, or new. There's no such thing as
I'm
faith
not.
if you
I'm
don't
not.
have
I'm not
logic.
saying that faith and logic are separate. I'm saying, again, I'm saying faith comes before logic, and I feel like you're saying logic comes before faith. Correct?
Yeah, I would say logic comes before faith. You should not have faith in something without it
And
being
I'm saying scientifically that is incorrect.
okay. Uh, Give me an
Um.
example of how that's incorrect in our daily lives, even if you're religious or not. Give me an example where you have faith before you have any logic.
Okay. Logic means understanding. Correct?
Yeah, reasoned
Uh,
logic makes
you
sense. Yeah, yeah,
going 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 on a, you've been on flight. You'll be flying out of the country soon.
yeah.
How many people? What percentage of people that go on flights understand the mechanics of air travel?
Next to none.
Next to none.
Yeah.
But they've got faith in it because they've got reason to have faith in it. So the logic fails, but they've got reason for it, even though there's no understanding.
So my response would be, I don't know how the mechanics and where the bolts of the plane are, but I know statistically you're very unlikely to die on a plane. You're more likely to get run over on a road, probably. So
So you've got reason to. You've got
there's
reason.
reason, logic. They're all the same for me. They're synonymous. So I don't
But
separate them.
you said reason is understanding. You don't understand air travel.
I don't have to understand air travel. I have to understand the statistical chance of me dying on an aeroplane for me to decide to get on an aeroplane. It's the
Like,
same. It's just a different thing. I don't. You
I'm,
chose
I'm
to have to look at the design, the mechanics of the aeroplane, but I chose to look at different statistic or different information.
no, I'm going by your definition of logic being understanding.
Okay, cool. So I mean, as we say, I've said my bit. You say your bit. Chris. Sorry, Claire. Claire, what do you think about this idea of
Faith
whatever
and
you've heard, really?
I'm afraid I find that the argument's quite difficult to follow. If you could sum it up for me, then I can maybe say something about it.
Which argument? So I'm okay. My argument is that you should not have faith in something if it's not logical.
I agree. Yes, I do agree about that. And we shouldn't support, theories we don't understand. They call it a black box theory. There's even an expression of that. It's like, well, it sort of works, but we don't know how it works, but we support it anyway. And really, you can have a look at why, Christianity is failing and why Islam is working, and work out those reasons for yourself. It's not completely a black box. I mean, you can analyze reasons, I think.
Okay, cool. I'll just quickly whiz through, but this is, I think I'm repeating something here. I said, how do people bypass logic? Is that they don't even go to logic. And then, so I did some research into where Christianity is most popular. It's usually in the small towns where you don't come across different ideas. Where you come to London, you have a massive drop in Christian communities. Sorry?
Sorry, I'll let you.
Oh yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So I'm just trying to, and this is me trying to understand.
They're stupid.
Oh yeah, sure. I would say I'm stupid as well.
Say with your chest, bro. Don't be sly about it.
maybe, but as somebody who studies psychology, I think most people are stupid.
Yeah, but Christians more so.
Yeah, I suppose if you are in the choice of beliefs. So I would say Elon Musk is stupid in respect to his ability to have good relationships, right? You got different kinds of stupid. Yeah. I don't like to say stupid for
Yeah,
I try to avoid using
don't like to say
aggressive
it,
words.
but you do enjoy implying it.
Yeah, sure, fine. I mean, okay, fine. I would say, yeah, they've got this small town ignorance. Yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. That's what my research is showing. Everybody can do their own research. Where are Christian communities biggest and where are they smallest? Big towns, they die very quickly.
I would say just I was being trollish a bit, but it's the point to make to that is that it goes back to the weak being enlightened. There's a thing in Christianity that you have to think of, you have to lessen yourself, position yourself correctly to under God as someone that's nothing, and see yourself as invaluable without God. So that you need God, and it's easier for people that are poor people, especially people that were slaves, women at the start of Christianity were slaves and women that felt a lot of power from being called to something greater than what their culture at the time called them to. So I was making fun of it, but there is a real sense in Christianity that it's the least of these that Jesus came for. And people that think themselves too smart or too than to the know-it-all are not humble enough to accept the proper role. So that's what the research is showing, I would say.
Okay, sure. And I would agree that all religions, and I'll give Claire a chance. I just want to say I agree in that sense that in all religions, it's usually the humble and the weak that learn from the religion. I would say the rich arrogantly defy the logic is what happens. It's not that it's not logical, or the poor and the weak because they're less educated.
I would
Uh,
agree with that.
yeah, yeah. And Claire, would you like to say something about that?
Well, I don't think people are logical about their religion. I mean, if they think about it, it's sort of, well, I'll have to follow the religion of mum and dad, or they'll be angry with me, and that's a good enough reason for most people, I suppose. They might say, well, how could we know which religion is better or the truth until we are dead anyway? And the other reason is that a lot of Christians hate Muslims, and I could put it in this way, that they have made an idol of their Islamophobia and prefer to worship it rather than the truth or the probability or the clear superiority of Islam over Christianity. I say that because it is easier to believe in Islam than it is to believe in Christianity. And I know Christians will say, "Oh, but we are the one who were quite free global empires, and we have the nuclear bombs, and we've been kicking those Muslims around for centuries." And that's why we're great. Make America great again. That kind of thing. So and that might be a good enough reason for them.
Do you want to
Yeah,
say anything, and then I'll respond as well? I've got to share some ideas on that. Yeah, go on, Tayo.
no, I'll let you go first.
Okay, so the idea that people are religious only because their parents chose that religion must be incorrect, because on one side you've got lots of people leaving Christianity, leaving the religion of their parents. On the other side, you've got Islam, where people are sticking to the religion of their parents, seemingly therefore have choice, because the default is to be irreligious as society becomes godless. So they're bucking the trend in that sense. So they're choosing, therefore, to stick to the religion of their parents, which is I'm talking about Islam. And then you've got lots of converts who are also bucking the trend and choosing to become Muslim. So to characterize all religions as just ideas copied from their parents would be statistically incorrect. I mean, Claire can respond if she wants to, and then Tyre, just because I made a point against what Claire said.
No, I don't particularly want to respond to that.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Tyre?
Yeah, I would affirm what you just said, but I would also point to the fact that there are people converting out of Muslims into Christianity and out of Christianity into other religions, Buddhism, whatever it may be. So there is that point to the fact that people don't just stick to the religion of their parents.
Can I quickly say what I
Yep.
should have said, because I actually
Okay.
forgot your question?
Yeah.
And it is this, because it's not such a big deal anymore for Christians to, reject Christianity. It's not such a big deal. But if your parents are really, really religious, and they'll be really, really offended if you converted to another religion, then you might think twice about it. But since it's already been the case that nobody really takes Christianity serious, or very few people do, or very few white people do, that's why they do it.
I will also just add to, I think Claire mentioned that a lot of Christians hate Muslims. I'm from Nigeria, where it's the Muslims that are killing the Christians. So there's a lot of that going around.
Yeah, and I think that's really absolutely terrible and shameful, and I'm embarrassed if I have to be embarrassed on behalf of other people. But yeah, I researched, there are in Nigeria Muslims, as far as, or somebody, but I think so they often admit that they're Muslims. I think I have to research it more, but I think we're assuming, let's say, they're Muslims, right? That are terrorist attacks. Sorry, say again?
They're claiming to be Muslims.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, I think that's absolutely wrong and terrible, and maybe that's one of the reasons why, I did that quote in the beginning of what Prophet Muhammad said, that they're absolutely just shameful, despicable, against the very basic teaching of Islam. According to Prophet Muhammad, I don't know all the words that Prophet Muhammad used against them. They're against those kind of Muslims. So, okay. So the last thing, if I think it's the last thing that is this is what I noticed in my discussion with Michael Jones, and it summarized as a lot of Christians hear big words and escape the interrogation of testing those ideas and big words. So I was told in the comments I was talking too much, and I corrected those people. I said I was there to talk and I listened a lot, but I talked and corrected Michael many times, and he had no rebuttal many times. So, for example, the idea of Trinity cannot be correct. I gave him a verse of the Bible that disproves it, and he had no response. He didn't even know of it. But
what's the verse in the Bible that disproves the Trinity? Sorry,
Jesus described. He says to one of his followers, he says, I go to my God and your God. So I gave lots of quotes, and I pinned it and I'll send it to you as well, but I pinned it as I pinned it in the comments of that video, the last video I did with Michael Jones. And he said many things that I disproved very quickly, but but people didn't seem to even notice that. They just said that he was saying amazingly intelligent things, which I saw mainly as just scapegoating on the Jews. So, for example, he said the idea that there are pedo priests is just Jewish fake news, and I said, well, how comes there's lots of pedo Buddhist monks? Is that Jewish?
Not to be that guy, but I thought to put in the comment in that video, but I thought it would be. But like talking pedophilia, that's an attack that Christians level at the Prophet Muhammad.
I think, sure, but I think so. I've talked about that particular case, and I'm quite actually. I've already said I'm fine if that's a woman. I suppose I'll respond to that. It's worth responding. Is that first of all, we're talking about, is it statistically true that if you choose to be celibate that's going to be bad for your sexual health. And we can see that unless we pretend everything is Jewish fake news. In responding to the case of Prophet Muhammad marrying supposedly his 9-year-old wife of his, there's different arguments. One is, if she's a woman, then who are we to decide who marries who if they're women and they're consenting? I had a discussion with a Christian. I said, listen, let's say there's a 13-year-old who is a woman or a man, whichever way you want to look at it, and they choose and they have sexual feelings and they want to have sex. Are you in any position to say they're not allowed? At what point, what age do you draw the line? And the only natural answer is the biology. The natural age for having sex is when our biology says you can have sex. And I would say nature is a lot smarter, as well, very well designed. So if you do say that, because the information is unclear as to whether she was 9 or 13, I think she is 14. But even if she was 9, I would still agree with it if she is a woman. And chose to have sex and wanted to. And very interestingly, you can research the youngest person to ever have a child, and this might wind people up, but I'll say anyway because I'm a science person, is 5 years old. So we have our standard. Yeah, go on.
Sorry, the 5 years old.
Yeah. So I think it's my claim here, and I don't want to extend the video discussion too long, but I suppose one of the big things, and I think this is common amongst all people, in fact, Muslims, Christians, atheists, they often hear big words, and I think Michael Jones had a lot of very weak arguments, and I counted them if you listen to it.
When you say what do you mean by big words?
Big word, big arguments. He says logos when he just means logic and things like that. And also,
Christians say big words.
No, I say okay. So let's make it. So I was taking the example of Michael Jones, EMJ, but also I see that in many of the discussions in Christian live streams where they basically talk about nothing when you cannot. If I try to pin down what on earth the argument they were trying to make, I could not understand. I'll give you an example. Maybe it's not the best example, but it's at the moment you were bringing up something which sounded fantastic until I researched it. It's called a meaning crisis, and he's a Buddhist guy, but he's very popular amongst the CRC. Is that correct? He's not popular against them. He's welcome to their meetings and he talks, but he's not popular.
He's affiliated with people in the CRC, yeah.
Okay, let's just leave him alone. I would say, generally speaking, and it's very hard to say generally speaking, it's not a very strong argument if I say generally speaking. What I hear from Christians is that they do not stand for, they say a lot but mean nothing. And I'll give one example. I'm not sure if you sent me a video or somebody else sent me this video of the CRC having a meeting whether or not to accept homosexuals into the church. Was it you that sent that to me? And there was a lady who started crying saying we should allow them, and then the priest comes, or the person in some sort of area of responsibility came to the dais to say his bit, and he just started crying, and he didn't say one thing or the other. He didn't make an argument against or the other. What I mean to say is there's a lot of words being used with very little substance, and people should be very aware of that. And I was told, like in the specific example of my debate with EMJ, is that I don't know nothing and I was disrupting him. But like, what was I disrupting? And when I did disrupt, didn't I not prove him to be incorrect? Or if I disrupted him, sometimes I wanted him to say something good about Christianity and at least clarify it, because it was very unclear. So go on. So Tayo and then Claire, and then I think we'll wind up if there isn't too much to say.
So your claim is that Christians say a lot, but they don't say anything meaningful.
Yeah, and I've said that in conversations, when I've joined in live streams with Future Chi Fudge. I'm not sure how you say. He's a Jewish guy, but he's a group.
Arturecci.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
I've
Yes.
jumped into, so I'm not new to saying
Again,
those kind of things.
there are a couple of things. One, there's a mischaracterization of everything Western as Christian and everything Christian as Western that I find in when you're talking about Christianity. Um, because using the example of Jacob's channel, it's not really a Christian thing. It's very much people looking for meaning in a meaningless West
But
thing.
am I wrong in understanding they are mostly Christians, except for Jacob, who's Jewish?
Jacob's not the only Jewish person there, but that
Oh,
it's
okay.
it's
Maybe
a
I just don't know. Okay.
yes, that's what
Okay.
I'm pointing to. It's there's a lot of assumptions that's being made that
But
it's
could you clarify to me so that everybody knows, like, to what percentage, when I was in that chat, for example, and Jacob was there, and there's about 5 other people. Do you remember who and which one of those, or how many of those were Christian, or
uh
was there even one non-Christian besides myself and
yes,
one besides Jacob as well, who was a Jew?
yes, the Noah
Okay.
I was there, Jonathan. So it's but
Okay.
there is a strong Christian presence there. I'm not denying that.
Okay. Sure.
If that's what you're saying, yeah, there is a
Yeah.
strong Christian presence there. But
Yeah.
I'll say what you're pointing to is Christians give a lot more affordance for people to wrestle with their faith. When I say Christianity is broad, it goes from I'm speaking from Eastern Orthodox to as Protestant as you can get without becoming an heretic. For example, there are Christian Unitarians. You are Christians that don't affirm the Trinity. Now, there are heretics in most circles, but in the TLC corner that I'm speaking to, there's a Unitarian there that's welcomed and is treated well. So Christians afford a lot of room for people to sort of wrestle and
Sorry.
yeah,
So I'm trying to get the right picture.
the right
So
form.
I can put the good comments, without covering your face. Sorry about that. Oh my god, I'm rubbish at this. I'll learn. I'll cover your face for a bit. You carry on talking. Sorry.
It's okay.
Oh, that's all right. That worked out
That's
well.
fine. Yeah, so there's a Muslims, from what I've observed, are a lot less narrow in what they believe and try to stick to exactly what they be. Apart from in your case, you're the only sect that's not called Muslim. Uh, is that correct? So yeah,
Sure. Yeah.
yeah. Did you
I
want
mean, we're persecuted. Just for the people who don't know what's going on, yeah, we're persecuted. We're told we're not Muslim, even though I consider myself Muslim according to the basic teaching of Islam. But yeah, you were saying, go on.
Yeah. So whereas in Christianity, in Protestant land, they will just go start their own church and they will say we are Christians and the people are not. So there's a lot of experimentation going, and there's a lot of things there's a lot of ways the Bible has been interpreted that there's disagreement amongst Christians. So it's more complex than just Christians all believe X and Y. The Trinity is one that I think it's a fair one to bring up because that's a core doctrine of Christianity. Um, at the theories of atonement, there's too many of them that I think you're just picking the one that's most popular amongst Protestants that you're running with it. In terms of misnaming original sin as inherited sin, once you change the name from original to inheritance, you're already barking up the wrong tree, and you're you're.
Are you saying they're drastically different things?
I'm saying if you're saying it's inherited, you're misunderstanding, and you take away the original world, then you miss it. So they're not drastically different; they're related, but one's more broader than the other.
Okay. Cool.
Sorry, the list is gone, so I don't remember
Oh,
what.
sorry. Yep. Sorry, I was trying to not put your face in the middle of the whoops, and yep, and so yes. So basically, that's it. That's the end bit. So yeah, you were saying
You said you can explain any Islamic idea in 1 minute.
Give me. Oh yeah, go for it. Ask me a question. Oh, I didn't say that yet, but it was on the list. But I was like,
Oh,
oh
well,
yeah,
I
oh yeah.
thought
So I mean, what happened was that because I didn't get to this bit here, which is um Yeah, he didn't know. So when I talked, I was saying things like, for example, Jesus didn't die on the cross, and EMJ didn't know about it. Yeah, I was told I was ignorant, which is a bit weird. Nobody, amongst the
Yeah,
yeah,
that's not true. Jesus did that on the cross.
yeah. But I'm saying I was giving evidence from the Bible. For example, Pilate. There's a lot of evidence, even from Jesus' own words. Just like, for example,
No, there isn't. That's I found that part with you and his discussion frustrating as a viewer. Like, what are you talking about? Can you provide the
so
evidence?
I did give, like, okay, so the example I gave, without going into too much. So Pontius Pilate, you know who he is, right?
I've heard of him.
He's basically he's the governor, and he is an expert in executions. He does it all the time, right?
The water
Um,
and the blood. Yeah, I
and
remember those.
he's in the Bible. He was shocked to hear that Jesus had died,
And that's
because we
evidence.
know that it takes roughly 3 days to kill a man on the cross, and Jesus had only been on the cross for a few hours, about 3 hours. So Pontius Pilate justifiably was surprised, and there were a lot of more evidence. Even Jesus' own words, just to back up a little bit more, he said to the Jews, he said, no sign will be given to this adulterous nation other than the sign of Jonah. And the sign of Jonah is very clearly a sign of survival, not what's the word? Coming back from the death, right? So he survived death, not didn't die and come back to life. So maybe we should do a whole video on that.
I would
And we
love.
can go through all these evidences, a ton of evidence
I would
to say
love.
he didn't die on the cross.
And
But how do you respond to, let's just go to the Pontius Pilate thing. How do you respond to that one particular thing? And then, because I don't
yeah,
want to extend it
okay,
too
yeah,
long.
just
Go on.
on that one, I would say you've inferred that because Pontius Pilate was suspicious, that's evidence that Jesus did not die. I think you've taken 3 steps forward without justifying how you got there. There was
I mean,
suspicion.
I did justify. He's an expert. That we know how long it takes normally to kill somebody on a cross. Much
You?
longer. Yes, we do. So, do you know that lots of people put themselves on the cross and they don't die?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Where all those people also pierced in their side, so that they'll be losing blood constantly. Was that
That's
also done?
actually more evidence that Jesus didn't die, because it gushed out, which is a sign of a beating heart, which is
Yeah.
medical evidence. So no, I mean, if you want to be scientific, that's the
I do.
science.
You're the science guy. When dealing with you, I do want to be scientific.
Yeah, so maybe we'll do a whole video on that, but there is a lot of evidence. So, okay, fine, that was your
Because,
response.
but I just say I'm disputing that because famously the only thing that's disputed is the resurrection, not the fact that Jesus died. But the fact that Muslims dispute Jesus' death, I think is hilarious. So I look forward to
Cool.
that show.
I would love to enjoy, even if you laughed all the way through, I'll enjoy doing it. So Claire, do you want to say something about this? So you can see what's on the screen. I'm basically saying, in short, the highest level of bullet points is essentially saying Christians say a lot of big words that mean nothing, and Christians should not be fooled by it. What do you feel about that?
Yes, they try to justify the Trinity using a lot of complicated theories, talking about the monarchical Trinity or the egalitarian Trinity, and they make it sound impossibly complicated. And perhaps it is an attempt by them to blind you with science and make you feel stupid and not really, so you won't ask any more questions, because every time you ask a question, you get this sort of 1 hour talk about things you don't understand. And quite a lot of them are very, very clever at doing that. So, but I think really it's very, very simple. Idolatry. Are Christians guilty of idolatry, or aren't they? And can they prove that Jesus is God? And I don't think they can, and that is their difficulty.
Can I just offer
Yeah,
just quick reply?
yeah.
I'll point to Mark 16 verse
You want to
60.
share screens? I think you've got the ability
Am
to.
I able to?
I hope so, because I'm learning. I'm new to see if there's a button for. I
Present.
hope.
Yeah,
Can
you
you
can
present?
Yes, but do I need to have an extra? Let me get the tab out before I share it.
Yeah, yeah.
Share
Oh,
screen.
good. I'm glad that works, or will work. I hope.
See. Okay.
Tayo sent me a link. Prime Christianity. Premier Christianity.
because the whole thing of Pontius Pilate washing his hands of the matter was, when the Jews said, we've convicted this guy of blasphemy, can you execute him? And Pontius Pilate was saying, what? We're Romans, we don't kill people for what's this again? And so he just wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the many bits of evidence that I would put on that show where he was desperate not to, and his wife was even absolutely terrified, and she walked into a court. But anyway, are you managing to
No, unfortunately not.
really, it's
So
not allowing you.
no.
Or if you put the link in the private
Yeah,
chat,
put the link in,
Taya,
I'll put it
and
up for you.
and then Khalid can
Oh,
do it himself.
that's a bit
Right.
rubbish, isn't it?
Let's do that.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I thought I've got this paid thing and it's not even allowing me to share screens. How rubbish is? I mean, guests to share screens. It's a bit...
There we go.
So yeah, put it. Can you put it in the private chat?
Yeah, done.
Oh, did you put it in the main comment?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
there now. Bible
Okay.
Gateway.
Private chat. Okay. Yep. Okay. So I'm gonna put that there, and then I'm gonna share, and then you can tell me how to scroll and all that kind of stuff as need be. Where present, share screen. Oh, there it is. This one, share, and it's working. Yeah.
Loaded. Oh, that's First Corinthians 1:23. That would be the one that shows that the stumbling blocks to the Jews. Oh, sorry. If you click on, I'll just send you the Daniel link.
Okay.
I've got a lot of Bible links open. I think I've sent the wrong one. Sorry.
Okay, it's all right. Or you could tell me a number or something, but I'll just.
Yeah, Daniel 7. If you
Oh, Daniel 7. Should I just type Daniel 7 or something?
Or you can just click this.
Oh, have you sent it? Oh, you sent it now. Yep, cool. So what I'll do is
Daniel is full of complicated prophecy. So I guess we're just going to be arguing about meaning of words.
No, this says pointing to the Son of Man and Son of God distinction, and Jesus refers to himself as the Son of Man, not the Son of God, and why he refers to himself as the Son of God proves that he is God.
Okay, go for it, Taya.
Yeah, I saw in the night visions, and behold, within clouds of heaven there came one like Son of Man, and they came to the Ancient of Days, and he was presented before him, and to him was given dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is everlasting, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom are one that shall not be destroyed. Also, Claire mentioned that the thing Christians have to answer for is idolatry and why they're worshiping the Son of Man. So in the Torah, you clearly just read that Son of Man is worshipped by all peoples, all nations, and all languages. And Jesus referred to himself as the Son of Man.
Okay, I mean, there are lots of people called Son of Man in the Bible, children of God, and things like that. So, okay. Okay, Claire, you want to say? So I want you guys to say the last words, and I will say. Oh, actually, I'll say my last words, and you guys have the last words, which is really, what is the reason for all of this? First of all, to make the world a better place, and I see the ideas that we have. We have good ideas it's a good map of the good mental map of the world. We can see people have got bad ideas, like thinking we should. We can identify as anything. We can see the negative effects of that, and so I'm just saying I'm promoting good ideas as best as I can. And then I make things very personal as well. So when I'm debating, even if it was just us three watching, that would be enough, because I value everybody in this chat enough for it to be valuable enough. So I think I would love, and I don't think you would take this the wrong way at all, Tayo. Actually, Claire definitely doesn't mind me saying this, that I would both love you to be Muslims, and because I think that's the better way. And so that's where I'm coming at. And I think that this Christianity, despite having many beautiful truths, that the more we stick to what Jesus said or some of the teaching from the Torah, they have beautiful teaching, but there are so many things that just don't make sense and that cannot be followed with much conviction. When we can see there's so many things that are against science and so many things like that. So it's just like the obvious thing to do is to say, hang on a minute, I rather you don't follow this. I can see Islam as solutions that everybody can see are working statistically. And I suppose that's it, really. That's where I'm coming from. That's what I do on all of these live streams. And it maybe it's worth saying that I would just repeat, we're all stupid in our different ways. If you study a bit of psychology, you'll realize how stupid we are. So it's not a bad thing to say we're all wrong in different ways, and we've got to be just a little bit less wrong, and life would be better for it. Claire, I always give Tayo first. So I'll have Tayo say the final words. And Claire, what do you want to say before?
I would like to say that the Quranic position on Jesus is very telling. I understand that for Christians it's very hard to accept that they have the wrong religion, because it's not, I mean, a lot of people just find it hard to accept that they're wrong, full stop. But if you're saying, oh, but your religion is wrong, it's like, well, your whole life is wrong. And it's not just your whole life, it's your parents are wrong, your grandparents are wrong, your ancestors are wrong, going back to, whenever. So I do understand people think I'm sort of this, monster wanting to eat Christians or whatever. It's like, I don't hate you. I just want you to understand that you need, Westerners need a religion that actually works, that people believe in, whose laws they follow. And if you're just holding on to Christianity because you think, oh, the stained glass windows, these old stone churches, aren't they beautiful? And the music and blah, blah. And I'm saying, yes, these are the relics and artifacts of a religion, but you actually need to believe in it, and therefore it is a question of belief. If your politicians believe in it, then they will follow it, and then your laws will be better, and your society won't be so crazy. But since nobody believes in it, they just do anything. They just make up laws, and these Christians who are concerned, they can't really defend themselves. I mean, we were talking about Paul van der Clay, really, and about his, he was very upset about the Calvinist synod. Basically having to kick out one church because they accepted a lesbian pastor. It was something like that, and it's very difficult for Christians, because it's like, if we're too strict, then they'll all go, but if we're not strict, the contagion will spread, and it'll get worse. And I'm just saying, in America, it will just keep getting worse, because America doesn't have an official religion. And therefore, if you're an American citizen and you go to Congress and you say, hey, this gay marriage, trans law is wrong, the Congress will say, why? What's the problem? What's your problem with
What's
gay
conquest?
rights?
What's conquest? Am I missing?
Congress in America.
Congress. Sorry.
Congress, yes,
Okay,
which is the legislature of America.
Yeah.
And so, you know, so if you're saying, you know, Christians are forbidden sodomy, and it's like, well, we're not officially a Christian nation. America isn't. And if a Jew were to say, well, you know, sodomites get the death penalty, the Congress will say, well, we're not a Jewish nation. What are you on about? And the same thing with Muslims. So I'm saying the problem comes from America. They have to fix it. And I'm afraid Americans have to acknowledge that they don't have a religion, and all the problems they are suffering socially, morally, and politically is because they have no defense against Congress, who can make up crap laws and say, well, you know, what can you do to stop us? We're the legislature. We don't have an official religion, and we control the laws. So shut up and go away and be our slave. And that's basically what Congress is saying to American citizens who are still clinging to Christianity. And I'm saying, you know, it doesn't work anymore. And that is a problem. Thank you for letting me have my say.
Welcome. Yes, Ty, go for it.
I'll be very short and sweet, and I guess I would like to say, God loves even the stupid people.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think God loves all his creation, so agree with that. So, and just to reiterate, I love all of you guys, everybody agreeing, disagreeing, Tayo, Claire, definitely, you know, just because we disagree, I don't think, I think you know this, you guys know this already when we talk all the time.
Oh yeah, sorry.
off screen.
I do also want to just add that this stream could have easily just been you giving your list, the same list, and I want to say thank you for including me. I know it's probably to make to show your audience how stupid Christians are and how they're illogical. Yet I do still appreciate the fact that you give me the platform to share my.
Cool. I mean, I think it's always it's good to have a logical discussion. You know, that's what the whole point of it is. How do we know one idea is correct or not? But yeah, I don't want to. Yeah, if you could simplify it as saying people are stupid, I suppose. But I've already said everybody's stupid, including myself. So just have to try to be less stupid.
That's the goal.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for your time. Really, thank you so much for 2 hours and 5 minutes of your time. I really appreciate it. You could be doing so many other things. Like I said in the beginning of this video, I mean, people like yourself are the ones who are committed to being on video, committing your time when nobody else could just be chilling out and doing anything they wanted for their own personal desires. But you, all of you, both of you have done that. And I thank also people who spent the time in the live chat to participate in hopefully making the world a better place by having this logical discussion. Peace be upon you. Assalamu alaikum to everybody. Bye.
Bye.
End broadcast.